Okay, so we'll have some of the same slides that we've seen before, but I think it may be good for you to run through it from the perspective of presenting it to the physician rather than the other way around. So when we talk about the 4 T's, okay? All right.
You or mine?
No, you.
Oh, okay.
Like you want to.
So basically, part of the value proposition of CBS Labs is doing things faster, cheaper, more effectively for clients. And we say that because, you know, there's a reason we're in Hialeah. The dollar per square foot here is very cheap.
Very.
And that makes it that makes us able to be very cost competitive while still making a reasonable profit.
Right.
Which of course you get the chance to share in. But what really makes us different, and you see it on the third line, the first 2 words, is that personal touch. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in a doctor's office and something's missing from a report or a chart or something. The doctor's upset, the nurses are calling whatever laboratory that was, they're on hold, they get the menu, dial 6, this, that, and the other thing. They never get to it takes 20, 30, 45 minutes to get to the person that can resolve things. Here at CBS, when you call in, a person answers the phone. We connect you right away with the person who can solve things. We're big enough to cover all their needs, but we're still small enough to be responsive and able to address things directly and personally. And that's a huge difference. And that's what physicians, clients, hospitals, institutions want. So some of the things we do differently at CBS Laboratories. You know, we have invested heavily in the latest technology and IT systems. What that means is we can really provide customized service.
Well, it says right there, the one word, tailors.
Absolutely.
That's your key.
We can tailor it to you right there. We'll learn more about toxicology later in the toxicology presentation, but we can tailor through our IT systems a specific panel that a doctor might want. That may be different than anything anybody else does, but our computer system can handle that. So all they have to say is, we'll call it Dr. Jim's panel. So Dr. Jim's panel will be these tests. Specimen comes in, they don't have to do anything more than just check Dr. Jim's panel, and all those tests will be run. They want to change Dr. Jim's panel next week, change Dr. Jim's panel, we'll change it. Makes it very simple and easy for everybody. What sets us apart?
High tech.
High tech, high touch, high talent, high trust. And actually, I'm gonna let's go back one, because I want to just give the one example of why these are in this order and why the 4th one is the most important. And I like to use Bernie Madoff as the example. He had high tech. He had a whole floor hidden in his building with computers to keep track of his scam. He was high touch. He would go to Newport, Rhode Island, Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Arizona, schmooze people, right? He was really good at that. He was high talent, smart man, knew finance, right? Was he number 4?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Rotting in prison.
You have to have all 4 HTs. You have to have all 4 HTs. And that number 4 becomes really important because number 4, number 2 really distinguish CBS Labs from everybody else.
Yeah, the other labs maybe elaborate that, you know, the tech and the talent is maybe at some of the competitive bigger labs out there.
Absolutely. If you go to, let's just pick MD Anderson Cancer Center's laboratory, you will find the same equipment. You'll find people who are as qualified, okay? You're not going to find the high touch that we can provide because of our focus.
I can speak to that. I work there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
All right.
So again, what is high technology? Investing in the latest, most cutting-edge equipment. You all saw the equipment firsthand. That's important that you had a chance to see that. Your doctor may not. So we can show him. We can show, if I'm a representative, I can show you through the presentation and video what the laboratory really looks like. But more importantly, you know, we talked about the 4 HTs and the trust. Trust me, doctor, I've been in the lab. I've seen the instruments. I've touched them. They're there. You're welcome to come down. High touch. We'll communicate with the client the way, whatever they want. People always ask me, how am I going to get my reports? You know what my answer is? However you want. You want them emailed, you want them faxed, whatever you want, we can make it happen. You need to have a question, call us. You will answer. There's not other big laboratories in the United States where a client can call in and talk to the PhD who ran the assay and really get an understanding of what's going on. High talent, just by way of an example, Dr. Sotolongo ran the HLA testing lab for transplants at University of Miami. She runs our molecular department. That's just one example of the talent that we have here. And we have people in every department like that. And then high trust. Every day we work to maintain that trust, including, like I was saying, 2 Fridays ago, the federal government just coming in just to check, which they did, and they were happy. So some of the areas, again, you know, we have the clinical testing, which you learned about by walking over in this section of the laboratory with the chemistry, the hematology, the microbiology, remember the smelly cheese room. Those are the areas that we have in there. Oh, sounds like the rain.
It does.
The chemistry, these are some of the panels that are standard in the industry on chemistry, but you know, we do that. And we can modify those if somebody has a specific need for a special rheumatology panel, they want to add a couple things. Our computer systems can handle that because we have the high tech to support that. Pathology. We saw in the laboratory the tissues and the fluids of the body and how they're handled. So these are areas of specialty that can be served through our pathology. Toxicology. We use very, very highly accurate liquid chromatography mass spectrometry instruments. Those are things that can measure absolutely small quantities of molecules and identify between them very, very easily. We run 96 different classes of drugs on every specimen, even if you only ordered 4 or 5. Why? There's a couple of reasons behind that. We may get a once a week or so request for an analyte, but if we run it every day, we know it's working. That's our commitment to the client. Another reason is because it allows us to have that flexibility in panels. If you're ordering these 5 and she's ordering those 5, rather than having to switch our instruments back and forth every time, it's easier for us to run everything and just give you the results that you needed on that specimen. So even though we'll run 96, we deliver just the ones that were ordered, and most importantly, remember we talked about high trust, we only bill for the ones we ordered. We're very ethical in that regard.
That aspect.
So these are some examples of the toxicology testing panels, and again, any of these panels can be customized because we've invested in the technology to allow us to do that easily. That allows us to have a better relationship, a closer relationship, be responsive, that high touch with the client. So the technology allows us to be high touch.
And you keep everything here just on an umbrella statement. If you had to do it again, let's say the doc says, wait a minute, redo it. And that's not a problem.
Not a problem at all.
In fact, yeah, the redundancy is built into this
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the storage from up to 3 weeks.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, a reasonable amount of time. I mean, she's going to look at it and the section's going to say, I love it, I hate it. Redo it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Here, for example, is the Toxicology 5 typical panel. So the amphetamines, barbiturates, cannabinoids, cocaines, opiates, and the last one is the specimen validity test. What that does is we measure a number of different characteristics, including pH, the color of the urine. We run a creatinine test. For normal humans, creatinine should be at a certain level. If that's low, that means the specimen was diluted. We also check for blocking agents so that we could see if somebody had attempted to tamper with that urine. That's important because as we learn later, in toxicology, we'll learn, but providing all that information lets the doctor or the clinician who ordered know that that specimen wasn't really a clean urine specimen. Something had happened to it. Where in the process it happened, we're not really interested in. But regardless of whether the specimen passes or fails the specimen validity test, we still run the confirmation. Why is that important? None of that stuff that we were worried about is going to interfere with the LCMS instrument. It's like playing the game Waldo, and you're looking for Waldo, except for the LCMS instrument, none of the other stuff appears. They only see Waldo. So for them, for us to look at it, we see all these people and we have to work hard to find Waldo. What they see is a blank field with Waldo sitting right there. It's not going to fool the instrument. On the molecular side, very, very interesting. We can do, there's basically 4 areas: pharmacogenetics, okay, infectious diseases, inherited diseases, and oncology. And if you remember from our previous graph where we talked about the rise, these are all increasing in utilization. So, do we have examples of the actual lab reports issued for the type of testing? Yes.
Yes.
And sometimes, people will ask, what does your report look like? We can show them very easily, whether in paper or, for example, here's a pharmacogenetics report in pain and psychiatry. You see how everything is color-coded.
Right.
The greens are good, the reds are bad, and the yellows mean use with caution. That makes it so easy for a doctor to read and interpret. Here's a stratification. You see that standard precautions should be used with the greens.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
And there you go. For example, if we go to the second category down, cardiovascular, to the beta blockers, you look, if the doctor was considering the drug on the right, metoprolol, he probably shouldn't do that for this particular patient. But for you, it may be good. In this case, he should switch them to one of the
ABCD.
One of the drugs in the green. And there's some other examples on there the same way. But again, it's a very visual, easy to interpret chart. And we try through our technology to deliver that to the doctor so they don't have to sift through 30, 40 pages of paper. They can get right to what they need to do. Absolutely.
No,
So, yep, that's just more example of the same report.
Is pharmacogenetics becoming more standard? I mean, I know it's newer technology, but so the patient actually getting on the best drug, where is that as far as time
That's
frame?
becoming more and more physicians are very interested in ordering pharmacogenetics.
Okay.
Some specialties are extremely excited about that. The cardiologists and the psychiatrists are very interested in pharmacogenetics.
Okay. And can the kinetics or genetics share, because obviously some patients are more than one compound, so are they able to even say, okay, this patient Jones is on A, B, and C, and actually it should be D, A, and F?
Absolutely.
So,
So pharmacogenetics testing can also help with drug-drug interactions.
Yeah. Okay.
And the great thing is about just the test only needs to be done once.
Correct. So the pharmacogenetics testing only needs to be done for a patient one time for each gene in their life. These are examples of setup.
Go back to this was a good point. Because the data will be updated, so the test doesn't need to be redone. So let's say 2 years later, based on new medication coming up, it can be reread.
Correct, yes. Yep.
That's just like a supply request form and stuff, right? Here's a question, I guess, that some physicians might ask you, if we're outsourcing some of our testing.
Yeah, we do 98% of our testing in-house. Remember we were talking about the microbiology area? In microbiology, there's 2 types. There's aerobic and anaerobic. Okay, we send out anaerobic. There's very, very few labs in the country that do anaerobic testing in-house. Most people send it to a specialized anaerobic laboratory because that's the place you need those special hoods and vacuum rooms, and each anaerobic case takes about 30 days to run. So it's better for us to send that out. That's a very highly specialized.
When it's only maybe 1 or 2%.
And again, you know, we don't see that much of that, so it makes sense to send it out. Here's some of our certifications and licenses. This is important because it builds on, again, the high trust side.
You want to elaborate on that? Like, it's just like no, you had no issues ever and things like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, when we talk about high trust, again, you know, I've mentioned the regulatory and the compliance sides and our commitment to those. You know, in our inspections, we've had no deficiencies, and that's over time. We've had no compliance issues, whether that be billing or collection or payments or anything. We operate absolutely 100% above board. There are other laboratories in the industry who routinely pay very, very large fines to the federal government and to the states for violating those. We have a pristine regulatory and compliance record. Here's, people may ask, there's our federal license.
You can have, this is all part of your sales material as a PDF document that you can attach and all that, so this is all part of that
Yeah, you
process.
bring, okay.
You know.
And the next one should be our state license. We do have licenses for other states as well. They're not in here, but for
So we can
example.
operate out of the box from
Absolutely,
here?
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
then you'll inform us, Wilf will inform us
Right.
as to A, B, C, D.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then we're in also in production of shooting actually like really an overview video as well. But
Okay.
meanwhile, of course, you know, we have photos available that, you know, you can share, for example, just so the doctor understands there's a real lab
Yeah,
involved and all that stuff.
It's
So,
not Kodak online.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's we'll go through a couple of questions that we have explored that you might have to overcome. So we kind of go through right now and maybe answer those. Can you supply client references, and does this list include a number of known industry leaders, for example?
And of course we can. If, you know, let's say you're talking with a cardiologist in Atlanta, we can provide cardiologist references. If you're talking to a psychiatrist in Miami, we can provide psychiatry references. If someone has a question about references, contact us with the type of specialty they are so we can get the right kind of reference to them. Because if somebody's let's say somebody's a cardiologist, interventional cardiologist, if we give the reference as a family practice doctor, it may not mean as much to them. But we can find a cardiologist for them to talk to who's one of our satisfied clients, and that would be, you know, better supporting for you.
More realistic. I can go to the bathroom again, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My thyroid.
So what are typical turn times for the type of testing required? How long will they take to get my results? And that's again another strong point of CBS Laboratories.
Absolutely. So on this side of the building, the chemistries, that you saw, the hematology, that's generally within 24 hours. And oftentimes faster, but we always promise within 24 hours for that. Microbiology, of course, takes about 3 days, 3 to 5 days. Toxicology, there's two parts of toxicology. There's screening, which we may be doing, or the client may be doing that. And there's confirmation. If we're doing screening and confirmation, it'll be 2 to 3 days turnaround time. If we're just doing the confirmation, we generally shoot for 1 to 2 days. So we oftentimes, if we have an issue with something in the toxicology side, we'll rerun the test anyway, because we want to make sure, again, our commitment to quality that's correct. That's why we say 1 to 2 days. On the molecular side, behind us, remember the DNA and all that? That can be anywhere from 3 to 5 days because of the processes with extraction DNA and light cycling and everything. And then pathology and cytology is anywhere from 2 to 5 days depending on the complexity of the test.
A good question that is coming up, of course, is how do we interface with the patient care system or the EHR that the doctor is currently using? And, you know, we're basically able to integrate with every EHR or EMR system that's currently approved by the United States. And the turnaround time of that can be somewhere within about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as part of this, you know, with the electronic medical records, electronic health records, remember we have invested heavily in technology here. So our IT team is very nimble in being able to interface. We already have a wide range of those. But from the EHR system point of view, every single interface is a new project. What that means is the EHR company is generally the slowest part, excuse me, of the integration. We're ready to go, and oftentimes they're still behind. Why is that important? We have to manage the expectations of our client, the doctor, the clinic, the nursing home, that we're ready to go. The EHR system may be the slower part in that.
Okay,
and we have to manage that expectation so that they're aware that we're already ready. And it's not us that may be slowing things up. That's very important for them to understand.
And then, of course, the question is what's the cost of integrating or interfacing?
With the EHR.
Right.
And you remember I said that each one is a separate project from the EHR's point of view. So as part of that, there is a cost associated. The EHR bills us for that interface, every single one. Even if we've already done one, they bill us for another one and another one. We pay that cost. It's allowed under law. So the doctor, the clinic, and the like does not have to pay that cost.
So you absorb it?
We absorb that cost.
Okay.
Of course, the question will come up, you know, what kind of insurance plans do we accept?
Yeah. And the interesting thing about the insurance market is there's actually very few plans that have true exclusive laboratory contracts. What they'll generally have is what they call a preferred lab. That's the one that the insurance company pays the least amount of money to. And then there'll be other laboratories that people can go to.
Yeah, but do they have a selection?
Yes, that's the nice thing, is that patients have the selection, and they can go to more than virtually every plan. There's very, very few, and by that I mean like less than my fingers and toes, that have true exclusive networks. What that means is we can often take almost everything from an office, and then as a business decision, if you look at the numbers, we may decide to take everything.
Yeah, well, that taking the whole thing, you got whole control. Now, you know, I don't think you're going to get questioned on something like that, with the performance behind it.
Right. So the question, and of course, is also if you can start testing right away. I know you touched on that. Yes, of course we can. Okay.
For the 1 to 2 and 3 to 4 days that it takes to get the results, is that once the results get to the lab or once they send them out?
Let's say it's from when the specimen is received in the lab.
Okay.
So for example, let's say that the doctor's in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Okay. Our courier would pick up that evening. It would be in our laboratory that evening, and the results would be out by close of business the next day if we're talking about a 1-day turnaround time. Let's say in the chemistry side. Let's say the doctor's in Alaska and he's FedExing the specimen to us. So we would receive it the next morning, put it into our laboratory, and about a day after that. Well, and if it's on the chemistry side, they'll probably have the results about 10 o'clock at night our time, which would be, what, 7 o'clock their time? So it's still very, very fast turnaround time.
Speed is of the essence.
You might hear the question like, what are we doing with the samples, you know, afterwards?
Absolutely. So again, like we all heard, we hold the specimens for 2 to 3 weeks. Those are what's called archived specimens.
Right.
And then, so we can always do additional testing. After that, we destroy the specimens, unless we're required by law to maintain them. So for example, you saw the pathology blocks we have to keep for a minimum of 10 years, I believe it is, and slides we have to keep for the same amount of time.
Well, you get your fingers in a lot of different areas, in my mind, that I'm seeing here. I mean, the opportunities are unlimited, provided you understand exactly what you're offering and doing and delivery on it. Because it's got to be kind of hard to say no to us, or at least to me. You know, yeah, and the group area instead of an independent, it's real big here. It's not just a one-man office with a stethoscope. I'm talking 70, 80, 90, 100.
Yep.
That's what you're going after.
Yep.
What maybe you want to touch on that? It's a good point. I mean, like, what are some of your larger clients? I mean, how, for example, what's the possibility of bringing a hospital on board or things like that? Don't they have their own labs or something like that?
We had the example earlier, right here, that a lot of times hospitals don't have the capabilities of doing everything in-house. Hospitals send things out. We can certainly work with hospitals, whether that be just providing some esoteric testing like the molecular, or providing other testing. Maybe they're set up to do urine screening for drug testing, but not urine confirmation. We can do their confirmations and provide results.
Have you ever done work with the military?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, I know it well.
Oh, good.
Real well. And they're subbing.
Okay, there you go.
They're subbing.
So there's a lot of opportunity.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be even bigger when our boys start coming back in another year from overseas. It's going to be a nightmare out here. In fact, they're talking about.
So now's a good time to start putting those things in place. You got that in the back of your mind.
One person that unfortunately I had cancer, and this one person took a liking to me and just accelerated everything. And she, anything I need, want, I go to her, right before I make an appointment, I go to her first.
Excellent,
And she handled it, but she's the one that, oversees the whole show. And her and I have been friends for 12, 14 years.
Excellent.
And she would say, and they use probably 8, 9, 10 different labs. Because of the quantity of people that come in there. You're looking at 6,000, 7,000 people a day.
There you go.
Maybe more.
Wonderful opportunity.
Yeah.
Wonderful opportunity.
All right. Another question that is coming up is, what are sometimes the routine or non-routine testing? And I think we're covered a lot, but that's of course something that you can then qualify and answer at that particular point. But